Hi everyone, good evening. How are we today? How's your day been? How's your week been? Today is the last of the series for my session with you guys. But how are you? Can one or two of you just tell me how you are and what you remember from our last class? So just one or two things you learned from our last class before we dive in for what we have today. I'm very well, thank you. I hope you guys are as excited as I am. I'm hoping for an awesome class today. You have no idea the behind the scenes, but I mean, I'm expectant. All right. Okay. Okay, so let's just wait for time has already passed. It's already 7:04. I think I'll just dive into what we have today. And by God's grace, there'll be no network issues. Everything will go well. To be an awesome class. So let's get started. All right. So today we're going to be looking at color and typography. Color and typography with a sprinkle of branding. So let's dive right in. Do any of you want to help with the definition? And I'm not talking about Google definition. I'm talking about your definition of what you know about colors and typography. And yes, I hope you all join Figma. I really hope you all join Figma because you will be needing it and you'll be using it. And the assignments that you'll be having for this week, which will be shared to you later on, you will need Figma for it. I hope you have all joined Figma for the assignment. All right, so let's get into it. So today we're going to be looking a bit at branding, then colors and typography. Okay, so what is branding? Let me just dive right in. What is branding? Do any of you want to help us with the definition of branding? Do you even know what branding is? Like, we've been hearing branding this, branding that. Do we actually know what it is about? Okay, just watch the last class and you know how to use Figma. So what's branding? Branding is the process of creating a unique identity for a product or service. A unique identity for a product or service. So for whatever you see in this law, whatever product, whatever company, whatever exists that has an identity, it was branded. Even if we look at churches still have their own branding. We look at products have their branding. We look at companies have their branding. Even down to biscuits, even down to t-shirts, even down to biro. You will see there's something that when you see, you'll be like, it's like it belongs to this company or it belongs to this church. So that's what branding does basically. It's the process of creating an identity for a product or service. And this also applies to UI UX as well, most especially UI and UX, but we'll get to that. So it includes visual elements, messaging, and overall experience. So visual elements could be logo, could be color. We'll still show you, or you guys will soon get to see like a real world example. So visual elements, messaging, like Nike now, just do it. Anywhere we see just do it and we see that tick, or even just do it, our mind goes to Nike. Or we see maybe everywhere you go, our mind goes to MTN. So those are branding. And then it's important to, like, branding in itself is very important because a strong brand creates recognition, it builds trust, it conveys values and mission, and creates differentiation of a product in a crowded market. So that's why when it comes to coffee, we know which one is Nescafe, we know which one is not Nescafe. For products in the market, like let's say the digital world, now that there are so many phones, there's Nokia, there's Samsung, there's Infinix, there's, I don't know if there's still BlackBerry. There's Apples, but because these are different brands, is how we can differentiate them. Assuming they didn't have a brand, we would not even know which is which, or we just, oh, this phone, because there's some Samsung phones that at the first glance they look like Apple, but when you see turn into the back and then you see, oh, the camera is different or the logo is different, and now okay, this is not an Apple phone. So that's what branding does basically. And yeah, key elements includes the logo, includes the color palette, includes the typography and the visual style. And then also branding is not just the physical, it could also be maybe how they go about their things. So maybe something like, I don't know which of us still watch TV, like all these children shows like Nickelodeon or Disney. Their own branding is more of lively, jumping around, cartoon, dancing, songs, than the corporate banking that everybody is just serious, and then you have the woman that is always carrying that book and smiling to the camera. So those are also, or that is also branding. So you can say, okay, maybe Disney has a more lively, jumping around brand compared to, let's say, like let's mention a serious bank like First Bank, that everybody's in suits and everybody is looking corporate and things like that. So that's literally what branding is. So let's go to the next slide. So let's look at the real world example, Netflix. So we can look at the upper left and we can see that Netflix has a logo. Anywhere we see this Netflix logo, either the word spelled out or the N looking like this, we know that, oh, this is Netflix. And even if we can't even see the logo, every time we hear that dun or how assuming this was like Zoom, I'll be like, can someone try the sound? Yeah, anytime we hear that sound, even if we're not even in the room, we can know that, okay, somebody is watching Netflix. So that's literally like, that's branding to the detail of the sound. And then we have the fonts. So if we want to be more physical, we have the fonts, we have the colors, red and, I don't know the shade of black, but it's not black, but red and, let's say black shade for this class, of dark gray. So, and then you see it in his posters, even down to like wall posters. You can still see the black and black, red, and white. For the application, you can see the black, red, and white. For the phone or the posters or even the movie posters, even down to the branding on buses, you can still see the same fonts, the same colors. And then there's even a style of the picture, like you see the way everybody is so focused, like this front aerial view for all of them. And then there's this like really quality picture to just spell out, okay, movies, and get into the character or know the character representing this movie or representing whatever it is. And then even the tagline and things, can see discover new stories on the building, discover new stories on the bus. So that's literally branding. And then in the last picture, we can see the colors broken down. And yeah, literally. So this is boss. I said this is branding, and this is branding spelt out. So branding includes color, includes sound, includes typography, even includes fonts, includes the logo and things like that. So this is literally how it is. It gives a product an identity, be it a physical product, a digital product. Like Netflix now is a digital product because you can't hold Netflix, but you can watch Netflix. You can interact with it through a user interface on your phone or your laptop or your TV. So that is how it works. So next slide. So what is a design system? I may not be able to go deep, but I will just try to explain as much as possible. And if time allows, I may just be able to just show you one or two things on Figma. But let's start with this. All right. So what is a design system? A design system is a collection of reusable design elements. A collection of reusable design elements, components, and guidelines that help ensure consistency and efficiency across a product user interface. And then, okay, yeah. So let's repeat that. A design system is a collection of reusable design elements, components, and guidelines that help ensure consistency and efficiency across a product user interface. So when you want to build a product or when you want to design a product, you need to know how it will look like. You need to consider the branding of the product, number one. And then when you understand, okay, this is the psychology, or this is what the brand wants to communicate, it's easy for you to pick, okay, let's use this as the primary color, or that's if they already have a brand guide, it helps a whole lot. If they don't have a brand guide, then you have to actually like go back and sit down and do all your research, and then you figure out that, okay, this is what we use for the colors, this is what we use for the buttons, this is what we use for the font, this is what we use for the cards. I think I mentioned this in our last class. So this is what we use for each section. This is what we use for the input fields and things like that. So a design system is really important in design. And then it also helps spell out, okay, this is the spacing we're using for each of our platforms, so that there's a level of consistency, or there's consistency across all boards, regardless of the interface. So here is a picture, and here is how it looks in Figma. So there's the normal spelled out design system, literally, that probably you can dedicate a page to, where you outline everything. You outline the color, the spacing, the grid, the fonts, the tabs, the cards. And I think I mentioned in last class, it can be as detailed, and it can be a simple one depending on what you're working on and the time you have and the company you're working with. So, and then how complex what you're working on is. So you can have a very simple design system, straight to the point, and you can have a very detailed and somewhat complex design system that outlines so many parts and things like that. So even look at the picture we have here. On the left, we have the outline of the typography. We have an outline of the colors. We have an outline of the spacing, the buttons, the fonts, and the tabs, right? And then on the right, we can now see, like, just in that same white space, although it's a bit small, but we can see it being applied. We can see the font applied. We can see the input field applied. We can see the button applied. We can see the button color applied. Even in the buttons on the left, you can see the three states, like, okay, this is the active state, this is the hover state, this is the normal state. And then on the right, you can see, okay, we use the primary color, which is like the dominant color on this, on the, like, for the brand. So we'll still get to colors, although let me just say this now: there's primary color, there's secondary color, there are neutral colors, there are colors for different states, and then there are action colors, like maybe, for example, successful, or do you want to delete, like that red for maybe do you want to delete, or like a warning color and things like that. So we can see the design system applied in the design beside it. So that's kind of how it works. And on the right, which is the dark rectangle, we can see, okay, this is how we can define it. So when probably you have it, so that it's reusable, even if you know, okay, this is the color I'm using, and so that there's consistency, and really super helpful for the developers that will be working on it, because it's easy for them to like create components too. So you can just like, okay, just create reusable components, and then you can now say, okay, for my text style, if I want a title, I just go to title, pick the font, and it edits. If I want a label font, I pick the label font. If I want a paragraph font, we'll still understand this as we go, and also as we do even our own personal research. And then same for colors. The colors have been defined. Like, yes, you have them, you know what they are, but then now they're defined as a setting in Figma. So now you can just pick it and apply it. You don't have to start going to, oh, what color did you use? I'm coming back to point. Like, you can just pick the color and apply, pick the font and apply, pick the effects, pick the grid, whatever it is, and apply. So that's kind of like how you apply it, or how you use it in Figma. So yes, once you know you have like the whole documentation, you can go ahead and define them. Definitely there are plugins that make this so much easy. They are like, maybe you can have one defined for a team. So maybe it's a company you're working for, like you don't have to be designing a design system all the time. You just probably have a folder with your team members, and then you can like predefine the design system, and then whatever file you create, it just enters. Like it's just automatic basically. So yeah. So moving on. So now finally we've come to colors. So what are colors? There's this let's say a joke or a meme I saw, like, how you explain colors to a blind man? Do any of us want to attempt? How would you explain colors to a blind man, apparently? Do any of us want to try? Or what do you understand by colors? Maybe I should just ask that. What do you know about colors? Princess. Okay, what do you know about colors? Sorry if that was offensive to anyone, but what do you know about colors before I dive right in? Okay. Yes. Yeah, so when I think the physics is like when light goes through a prism, like when white light splits into a spectrum, then you get to see colors, and that's kind of like the rainbow, literally red, orange, yellow, green, indigo, sorry, green, blue, indigo, violet. So that's literally colors, like white light splits. So in white light you have all the colors um broken down and spread out. Thank you very much. So move on. So what are colors? Colors are a visual perception created by the way an object reflects or emits light. So when light lands on an object, it either absorbs or reflects the light. If it absorbs the light, it is most likely a dark color, and if it reflects, is most likely a light color. So yeah, that's literally how it works. So and then bounces on the object, bounces to our eyes, we get to see its color. And then it's also a fundamental. I think that's the most basic way to define it. I don't say that's the like definition, but that's the basic way to define it. It is a fundamental element in design, playing a significant role in communication and aesthetics. Yeah, so we'll still get to psychology of color. Literally, color communicates, and color makes things beautiful. Like if you have a white dress isn't bad, but maybe you have a white dress, or maybe you have a white top and let's say green trouser or a green skirt. Now there's like color, there's like something extra. Or you have a blue top and maybe a black trousers, something extra than just plain white. So yeah, it makes things beautiful. And then it also communicates because there's literally a psychology to colors. For example, when you see green, your mind goes to agriculture, your mind goes to plant, your mind goes to maybe something healthy. So yeah, something healthy too. So that's the way color communicates. And then in UI design, apart from communication and aesthetics, it also helps in guiding users' attention. So we've talked about hierarchy, we've talked about contrasts. This is where it comes into play. Okay, just to go through what some people are saying. Yeah, color gives identity. It makes things beautiful. Yeah, and it can brighten up your mood. So that's where it communicates, or it just has a way of just affecting like the way the brain or the mind processes whatever we're looking at. Okay, so yeah, and then in UI, apart from guiding users' attention, creating emotional responses, it also establishes a brand identity. And to add to this, it also for like creates contrast, creates hierarchy, um, also draws our attention, literally. So draws our attention, maybe there's something you shouldn't click on fast, or there's something you should click on fast, or out of everything, this is the call to action, I want you to click on this button. Those are ways color can be applied. And then color could also communicate, like imagine maybe you're down and you just come on this website and everywhere is just bright and beautiful, and all the pictures are smiling at you, and then everything is just so beautiful, and you're like, wow, I've seen something good in my life. So that's what colors can do. And then it could even like, okay, because you're so happy, like from down, the colors have made you happy, you're like, okay, and they're like, buy now and get like 50% discount. Before you know it, you have clicked. Before you know it, you're seeing alerts. Before everything will process, that's when it's too late. So that's something colors could do. So yeah, so let's move on. So now let's move into color theory. Let's even understand how these colors work. So color theory is a system that guides designers in understanding how colors interact and how they can be combined to create visually pleasing designs. So it's a system that guides users, let's say manual, or just it's a law. So it's a law you could, if like, just understand how colors work, and as you learn, as you practice, it becomes a subconscious thing. So okay, these colors match, these colors don't match, things like that. So color theory is a system that guides designers in understanding how colors interact and how they can be combined to create visually pleasing designs. It also provides a foundation for using colors intentionally and consistently across a product. So yes, you want to use your colors intentionally. Remember, intentionally is where you're deliberately making someone click on a button, and then consistently, I think we treated that in the last class, where the button colors for a particular action should remain the same. In fact, all the buttons should remain the same unless maybe it's doing something completely different, or you want to communicate something else entirely, or maybe you're creating contrast. And then intentionally as well. Then also, okay, maybe I'll talk about this more when we get to colors and emotions. I'll talk about that later. So when it comes to colors, we have the primary colors. So let's go back to primary school. We have the primary colors, we have the secondary colors. There are other types like the neutral colors and a whole lot, but I think there's tertiary colors and stuff like that. But for this class, we're talking about primary and secondary colors. So primary colors, the normal default red, yellow, blue. And then secondary colors, we have, when we mix two primary colors, you get a secondary color. So if you mix red and yellow, you get orange, yellow and blue, you get green, blue and red, you get violet. Secondary colors. So now, each of these colors, and I don't think I created a slide for this, but let me just explain. Each of these colors have like a spectrum. Okay, so there are different shades and there are different hues, and there's like hue and saturation, and we might have heard about this hue and saturation. So hue and saturation, hue is like how bright or how vibrant it is. So like the more saturated it is, the more, how will I describe this now? Let's imagine, how do I describe this? Okay, let's imagine white. Let's just use this as an example. So white, okay, you have a color and it's white, and then now you want to, or you have a color, I don't know, maybe you're coloring a book, okay, and then maybe the first time you shade, it's not bright. You shade that the color is showing, but it's not thick, like it's not coming out very well. So you keep on shading, and then the color gets like more thick, and then you can see the color bright and everywhere, can see very well. Okay, so now let's call that saturation. And then now maybe you're now adding black. So the color is fading away, or maybe you're removing from the color, or you're like washing the color away. So that's like when you're reducing the saturation. So maybe to put it clear and not confuse you further, hue is the color, what you see, hue. And then saturation is how much of the color is there. I hope that helps. I'll try to open Figma before this class ends, so I think I'll just use that to explain further. So how bright, how dark, or how bright, how dim, because when you desaturate a color, you end up on black and white, or you end up, like, let's say a picture now, you end up on black and white. When you add more color, it's like more vibrant, more color is there, like it's popping very well. And then when you remove all the color, it's like gray and just nothing. Yeah, the color is gray, or just as if they just remove all the color from it. So that's like saturation. And then hue is the color, and then you have like light and dark. So the more you add white, the lighter it gets. The more you have black, the darker it gets. So I think that's for hue. So it's like how dark to how light it is. And the saturation is how vibrant and how it's not there. Like you're literally like removing the color from it. So that's the way to explain hue and saturation. So if we change the hue, probably you're changing red to yellow. Yeah, you're changing red to yellow, and then if we change the saturation, yeah, making the yellow more yellow or less yellow, almost gray. So yeah, that's it. So if you're changing the hue, you're changing red to yellow. And then if you're changing the saturation of that yellow, if you increase it, you're making it more yellow. And if you reduce it, you're making it like gray because you're washing out the yellow from it. So that's hue and saturation basically. So yeah, primary colors, secondary colors, every color you can find in this world, kind of find somewhere in all these colors listed. So in the primary and secondary color, which makes up the color wheel, if you break it down, so how dark and how light is in the color wheel, yeah, then if you want to play around, you can now like play around with the settings and stuff to get the exact shade you're looking for, or the exact hue you're looking for basically. So let's move on to the color wheel. So the color wheel has all the colors. Can you hear me though? Are we still together? Are we still together? All right, so the color wheel is a circular diagram of colors arranged by their chromatic relationship. It is a visual tool that helps designers to choose color combinations that work well together. All right, so now we know what colors are, we know how the color wheel is formed, and then now we want to choose a color, which is not hard. You can literally just pick a color. But how do we know what color goes with that color? Because we have seen things in this life, and there are some that are beautiful, and there are some that you just question why, and why. Okay, so definitely, like earlier mentioned or put together, colors communicate, and you don't want a situation where your colors is turning people off, or your colors are making people like maybe irritated, or they can't even see what they want to do, like they're finding it hard to read the text, or they're finding it hard to make out what is there, or maybe the color shades of is just turning them off, like why did they use this color? Maybe imagine a side now that is yellow and white, and not a yellow that you can read, or a yellow that you have to strain your eyes to see. It will be turning off. At a point, you're like, they didn't send me. So that's why it's important to know how to pick colors, and to know how to pick colors well. And there are different ways you can pick colors, definitely, which I think I'll treat a bit more in the next slide. So let's just understand that the color wheel is a circular diagram of colors arranged by their chromatic relationship. It's a visual tool that helps designers to choose color combinations that work well. So, okay, so maybe I should dive a bit more here. It's probably in front or below, whatever, but what should I do? Okay, let's just keep going. Let's keep going. So colors and emotions, I've already mentioned this. We'll still go back to color wheel, but let's just go through this. I think there's a picture that outlines the different color selection process. So let me just teach this before I get to that slide. So colors and emotions, we have established that colors can evoke emotions, and they're actually powerful in evoking emotions and shaping user perceptions. In UI, understanding the emotional and psychological impact of colors is crucial for creating the right experience. So now remember, green, fresh, nature, calm, envy. And then brands that use this, we have Spotify, we have what color uses? We have WhatsApp. We have WhatsApp. Blue is mostly trust. You can find them mostly amongst banks because it evokes trust, and then dependability, strength, stability. And then you can find most of these tech companies using blue, like Skype, Dell, Zoom. Find them using blue. Purple, we have like, it communicates like creative, wise, romantic. Red can say passion, bold. It can also communicate danger. Orange, optimism, Optimism, abi warm, balance, success. Yellow, clarity, cheerful, fun. Gray, balance, equality, sophistication. Just like apple. So let's see a real world example where that is applied. And that those, or the picture I'm going to be showing you, is of fast food restaurants. So you can see fast food restaurants using mostly yellow, red, and blue. And just like JS Graphics said, red can say hunger to or love. So you see food brands using red. An example of food brands using red, you can see KFC, you can see Burger King, you can see Domino's, you can see McDonald's, all of them. Like, it looks like coincidence, but that is it. Like red, yellow, blue, then maybe purple can just enter somewhere, but mostly red, yellow, blue just communicates food. And there's probably a psychological effect anytime we see these colors and we're like, you know what, this is like a premium place to eat. Let's spend that money. Exactly. Even Chicken Republic, let's go, let's eat, and let's be happy eating. So those are this is an example of restaurants. Okay. So, so I treated it in color schemes. So color schemes are intentional combinations of colors that create a harmonious or visually appealing effect in design. Different schemas serve different purposes depending on the project's goal. So now when you look at the color wheel and then you pick colors following different rules, will I say those are color schemas or color schemes rather, and then you can now use it to create harmonious or visually appealing effect. And then I'll just use this example to like explain so that and it can also help us when it comes to picking colors. Definitely as we grow and as we advance, like I said, it becomes subconscious. Like you just know what colors go with each other, or you're able to identify what works. Now there are even sites that help with contrast. Like there are literal color sites that help, okay, do these two colors work or these colors don't work, or how can I pick color? Like there's this site called Adobe Color. Using Adobe Color, you can pick colors from images, or you can create color codes from images. You can even write that, okay, I want to create something for maybe a business. So you can just type business in explore section, and then it will bring out like color codes that work with businesses, and then you can just pick one for your brand. Or you can even just go to their own color wheel, and then using the laws of color wheel, you can pick your own set of colors and custom make your own color set, like what you'll be using for your brand, which you can pick, okay, what will be the primary color, what will be the secondary color, and then there are the default colors. And then yeah, and will I say for brands, if you're a beginner, it's advisable to use one or two, your primary color and your secondary color. So your primary color is like your dominant color, like your 60%, and your secondary color could be like 30%, and maybe like a contrast color could be 10%. So maybe your brand is purple and green now. Maybe purple can be your primary color, green can be your secondary color, then maybe yellow. There's this nice orangey shade of yellow that can be like your contrast. Like you just want to maybe divide the two, or just add a fizzy or something. It's not the main color, but just something to contrast. So when you're doing brands, or when you're working with brands, especially as a beginner, please use one or two colors. As you progress, it's easy to add more or work with or play around with more. But as you're beginning, just keep it simple, straight to the point. And then not the same shade of color. Remember, that's where hues come in. So you can use the lighter shade. Like if you want to, you can only using one color. You can use deep blue for your primary color. You can use light blue for your secondary color, and then maybe aqua blue, like one blue that is not sharp, like maybe it's like neon blue or sharp, just one different blue for your contrast color or whatever. So it's the same shade, it's the same blue, but on the color wheel. And then I think from this picture we can see what I'm talking about. Like if we look at analogous now, or monochromatic here, if you can look at monochromatic, the end, like it's a pizza slice, the bigger part of the pizza slice, or the what's the shape, pie, right? So the bigger slice, can see the color is thick, but when you come to the middle, to the bottom, is lighter. So this whole set could be your color that you're using for your site. But definitely there's the default black and white, or a dark shade that is almost black, like a dark gray for your text, and then white for your background or whatever. But then maybe for like contrast, so maybe you can use the darkest orange for your buttons, and then the other shades for like maybe shapes, or maybe for your card, or for whatever you want to use it for on your site. But it's just one color, and at the end of the day you just realize it's one color but different shades of one color. Because if you use the same shade of one color, there wouldn't be contrast, and it won't come out well. Like it won't work. It will not work at all. So yeah, that's how it works. And yeah, people have also given us like so yes, it's important to know your colors, be able to have contrast and all. And yeah, someone also mentioned Coolors. Coolors too is another site that can help with choosing colors or working with colors. Yeah, so let's come back to schemes. So there are different ways of combining colors. Okay, so I'll just talk on 4. There are so many other ways, but these are like the common and main 4. So analogous on the color wheel, just pick 3 colors that are beside each other. Those 3 colors work together perfectly. Try it, you will see. Those 3 colors work together. And then we have another one, monochromatic, as I've talked about, just on the color wheel, one strip, like just pick one color, but you're working from the light to dark. So the outside is the darkest, the inside is the lightest, or the most light, or whatever. So yeah, and then try addict, draw like a X. So 2 complementary colors. So let's look at complementary now, opposite. So the 2 colors opposite together. So I think let me go back to the color wheel, so we'll try. So we have analogous, 3 colors beside each other. Monochromatic, that's 1 color but different hues or shades. And then we have complementary, which is 2 opposite colors. They match. Try it, they match. And we'll look at it before I move on. And then triadic, so those are 2 complementary colors that are like forming an X. So you pick 2 complementary colors here and 2 complementary colors. If you use all 4 colors, they will blend. But if you use them well, they will blend, because they might not blend if you don't use them well. So let me just show you on a brighter color wheel. Okay, let's use this one. So now look at violet and yellow. Remember I said that maybe your color brand is yellow, green, and purple, green, and yellow. So let's say violet, because purple is not here. Violet, green, and yellow. You can see violet, green, and yellow, and red. That's the triadic, and it fits. It fits well. It fits well. And then if you look at only maybe the violet and yellow, it fits well. If you look at blue and orange, that blue and orange, I think there's one brand that has this blue and orange. I can't remember, but it reminds me of a brand. I literally can't remember, but it reminds me of a brand. Then we look at red orange and red orange, which is analogous, right? And then I know you guys know MasterCard. That's what MasterCard did. You can see the red, you can see the red orange, and you can see the orange, those 3 colors. So that's like MasterCard's branding, basically. So that's how colors work, literally. And you can just choose that for your site or whatever the brand is. But then it's not just about picking colors that fit. You're also understanding your brand. So if your brand is something, maybe something trust now, maybe you can pick blue, like a banking app now. You can use blue, violet, and violet. Those 3 colors work. If your app is probably maybe like a children's app, okay, maybe like a health app, maybe all these green, and what they used to call it, recyclable, all those stuff, that is green earth or whatever. You can see the green, yellow, green, and yellow. All 3 colors work beautiful, and that could be your entire site, to work with your entire site. So yeah. Okay, so so I think that's all with color schemes. I think do we have any questions before I move on to colors in UI? Just briefly, someone asked how saturation works. Look at saturation as draining someone of color, literally. you look at a picture, the more saturated it is, the more the colors will be sharp. So maybe I can use monochromatic to explain that now. So maybe if the color is the first, like the middle core, the bottom of the pie cutting or the bottom of the pizza, if that's the shade, if you are making it more saturated, you're going towards the end of the pizza. But if you are making it less saturated, you're going towards gray. Like you're just washing out all the colors. You're stuck with maybe white and black, or you're stuck with white, or you're stuck with gray, or you're stuck with black, whatever color you choose. Until there's nothing there, like you're just sucking the color out. So that's how saturation works. So the more saturated, the more color. The less saturated, the less color. All right. So yeah, Eboluwa. Saturation is how vibrant a color is. So color schemes, analogous is literally just the three colors beside each other. They work. The first three, like just pick three colors beside each other on the color wheel. They will blend. That's it. Try complementary is the opposite colors. Like look at one color directly opposite it. Those two colors will blend. Monochromatic is just one color, and triadic, you are taking two complementary colors in the shape of an X. There's also triangle too. I think that's this one, but there's one that you just pick in a triangle, like you draw a triangle and just three colors to match. So there are different ones, but we'll just look at this for now. Let me go back to that picture of the color wheel. So now, analogous is if I pick violet, and red. It's the same way if I pick green, and yellow. It's the same way if I pick red, orange, and orange. Just three colors beside each other, they'll work. Yes, that's true. Victory. Monochromatic is using the same color but different shades of that color. Okay. So let's look at colors in UI. Okay. So colors in UI are not just for aesthetics, and I think we understand that by now. But then now also, apart from aesthetics, is also functional. Remember, UI UX is not art, is deliberate, like it's functional and then looks good. And then both of them go together. It can't look good without being functional, and it can't be functional without looking good. So apart from colors helping with the aesthetics, it can be functional. So take for example, now if you want to delete something, it's most likely going to be in red, like maybe delete account. You don't want to mistakenly delete your account. So it would be wise for the designer to put the word delete account in either a red button or a red text. So when you see it, your mind will like, it's red, or the entire site, all the buttons are probably like blue or purple or whatever. So now that I'm seeing red, this button is different. Why is it different? I'll now read delete account. I'll now know that, okay, this is a function that they want me to actually think about before making an action. So that's where it's functional. And then even in communication, maybe there's an error. I could see yellow. So I understand, okay, why is this color coming to me? Maybe in the icon or whatever. And then I know that it's telling me, okay, an error has occurred, things like that. So that's basically it. So in UI, we should just understand the fact that colors are functional. They're not just for aesthetics. They help with hierarchy. That's making you look at something, like to perform an action, look at the call to action. They ensure usability, and they help guide users through the interface. So you can even see maybe like a website and you see the lines. You could say, oh, design, but somehow you're following the line. And before you know it, you're looking at join now or register now. It's not even in the main design. It's just like background design, but somehow it's still leading you to take an action. So that's where you be intentional and you be deliberate about the colors you use and how you use those colors. So that's how it works. And then, yeah, colors can be used for background and foreground. For contrast, can be used for primary actions like delete, like register, like buy now or make a payment. And then also for consistent branding, you want to have the same color of the buttons, you want to have the same color of the headers. If it's black you use for the header, you don't want to go to another header and use purple. Like, why are you using purple? It's just going to make the site not look good. So you want to have consistent branding with your colors, background and foreground, and then primary actions. And let's also note that as much as colors help with taking actions, yeah, for people that are color blind, you want to maybe use an icon to support it, or you want to use like a shape to support it, because they can't see the color. They might just see how dark or light, but they might not be able to tell which color it is. They would be able to know from the icon, or know from the illustration, or know from the text what it is or why they shouldn't click. So you see delete now, apart from red text, you see the dustbin, like that dustbin icon, that this is delete though, like don't delete your account or don't delete this thing without deliberately knowing that, okay, this is what you want to do. So that's how it works. Okay, so someone mentioned design system. Design system is basically like a brand guide for UI. So you know, okay, these are the colors we want to use for this brand. These are the colors for a button when it's clicked. These are the colors for a button when it's not clicked. These are the colors for a button when it's inactive. Maybe they haven't typed their name yet, so you can't actually click on that button. You see how colors are even communicating? Do you get? So those are things a design system will tell you. And then with this design system, you can create variants. You can create like I showed you, you can create like font styles, you can create color styles. So as you're working in your design, you don't have to like do everything from scratch. You can just bring in the effects, bring in that drop shadow, you can bring in that grid, you can bring in that button self. Yes, you can bring in that button, you can bring in that icon. So you can, your design system, with the help of plugins, or even directly, you can do it from scratch. Like it's something that can be done from scratch. It just depends on how fast or the whatever you're working on, really, or if it has already been done. So a design system can work with icons. There's this project I'm working on, and it's so cool how I can just search for the icon. And it's not even a plugin, like it's just there, and then to give me the icon, and then to even give me the icon in the color for that section. Like it's so good. So that's what, and then again, like I said, can be very detailed and it can be simple. But simple means it has the important parts, and details means down to the last shade of shadow they'll be that deliberate. So that's how it works. Okay, so I think the next is typography. So do we have any questions? We'll soon go on break before I dive in. Do we have any questions? Are we all on the same page? All right, so let me just define typography and maybe we can call it a day. I said call it a day. We can go on our break and then when we come back, we'll continue. Okay, so what's typography? Typography refers to the art and technique of arranging type. What is type? What is typed? Type is what you see, like the word typography is typed. So if I'm going to arrange typography differently, if I'm going to describe arrange the word words differently, I think that's typography. So whatever I do to make words look different is typography. So this talks about the space between the text, the space between the lines, how the, what do you call it, the serif, like serif, that's like the extra line sticking out of the text, the brackets, which is the inner curve or the outer curve. You can go back and read all of this. This is just the boring theory part of it. So yeah, there are different parts of a type or a typeface. Yeah, and there are different types of typography, literally, or different types of fonts. So we'll still get to what is a font, what is typography. So typography is the art and technique of arranging type to make written language legible, readable, and visually appealing. So not all like type looks the same. So that's where typography makes it, like wherever it's applied, let it be legible, let it be readable, let it be visually appealing. It encompasses the selection and use of typefaces, font sizes, line spacing, and other aspects of text layout and formatting. So the use of typefaces. So is it bold, is it italic, is it um thin, is it regular? Font size, is the size 20 or 30 or 50? Like, is it large, is it small? Line spacing, which it can be mathematical, it's even it is mathematical, so it can be 10 pixels, 20 pixels, 30 pixels, depending on the font size. Like and then line spacing is the space between two text, like two lines of text basically. And then other aspects of text layout and formatting. So I think everything just, yes. So Adebayo Bukola, you're right. Typography, an example of typography is Ladies Tech Africa. It's written as one word. So now you see how it communicates differently. If I say Ladies Tech Africa, I could think maybe someone is talking about something. But when it's written as a word, I realize that, okay, is this a brand? Is this a logo? Is this something in itself and not just a conversation? So that's how typography works. And typography too has its own psychology. I don't think I choose that in the slide, but then maybe if we see the same word, so let's take for example, we see like a scary looking "just do it," and then we see "just do it," like this tiny cute fonts, "just do it." So that's like a way typography can also like speak to us or invoke communication or invoke an action. So yeah, literally. And it's the same words, same everything, just different fonts. And then it's like, just do it. And then there's just do it. And I'm using intensity just for you to visualize it, like how typography can work. So, yeah, basically. And then how close, how far could communicate different things. So, what are the uses of typography? So, I think after this, we'll go on a break and then we'll come back and we'll continue. So uses of typography, you can use typography for hierarchy. So this is how different types of text, headings, subheadings, body text are styled to create a clear structure. So we can look in the image, in the image we can see like the heading is big, the body text is small, the text in the button is small. If all of them are big, like it will be difficult to even differentiate. Everything will just be everywhere. So there's an hierarchy that, okay, let me first read the subheading, let me read the text, let me read the button, and then the colors are just guiding. And you see the way now, see an application of color, you see the way the color, it looks like design, but you can see how the color is only designed around the action button. So my mind, like as I'm following the design, my mind is already looking at the action button because that's the closest thing to the color. And then also the color too, from afar I can't even read what is there, but I can see the action buttons. So that's how colors work, and also that's how hierarchy of type works. Then readability too. You want text to be easy to read. They're actually different um font sizes for different platforms. Like the font size you use for a desktop is not the same font size you use for a mobile application or a mobile website. It's not the same font size you use for maybe a platform for TV. So maybe like an application for smart TV now is not the same font you use because it's a bigger screen. If you use the same font you use for mobile on web, they won't be able to read it on the web. So there are different sizes and there are different laws and there are different spacing laws too. And I think spacing should be in multiples of 4 or 8. And so maybe if you want to just do like small space, you can use like 4, the next, or 8, and then the next one is 16, and the next one is 24. So depending on how large you want this space, but then you can still divisible by 8. And then for this thing, yeah, for font size, I think there's 12, 16. I think for mobile, it shouldn't be less than 12, no matter how small, unless it's a design or it's deliberate or it's an information that is not needed. And then we could have like 16. Can I even still have the 16? But I think this one is now multiples of 4 and things like that. So 30, is it 36 or 32? One of them, and yeah, 36 and 32 too. So maybe for like your header could be like 36. Okay, now maybe like a desktop now, your header could be 36, and then the fonts could be like maybe 16 or 24. depending on how big or small whatever you're doing is. So there's multiples of 8, multiples of 4, whatever you're designing. And then the actual laws and books I wouldn't be able to go through in this class, but it's something as we go on and even as we attempt our assignments, which will be sent to you, you can use the opportunity to learn these things. I think I'll attach a link to help as well, like a mini tutorial for Figma. So it's not just like knowing how to go through it, you're actually seeing it in application, building something. So yeah. Okay, so back to uses of typography. So hierarchy, readability, then visual aesthetics. So um apart from even like using it deliberately, you can even just use it for making it pretty, like, or maybe you can use a decorative font, or you can use like a all these cursive fonts, like all these fonts they use for wedding, and that same fonts they'll use for the logo, they'll use for the invitation. So that's how you can use it for visual aesthetics. And then even in um your actual UI design, you can apply that same law as well. So hierarchy, readability, visual aesthetics. So that those are the uses of typography. So I'll be going on a break, and then when we come back, we'll dive a little bit deeper into typography. Thank you all. Okay, so before we go on, can one or two people just tell us what they've learned so far? And yes, please take your attendance, it's very important. Before we continue, can one of us just explain what they've learned so far? And if you have any questions, just let me know. All right, while that is pending, so I was able to get the hue and saturation section just to explain a bit more. So hue is determined by measuring the difference between white light and various colors of light. And saturation, colors of light, definitely, we established all colors come from white. And then when white breaks into different colors, or when light passes through like a prism or is reflected, it breaks into different colors. So, and then depending on whatever color is landing onto, is what we see basically. So, hue is the difference between all the colors in white light, and then saturation is the amount of gray in a color. So, as you keep adding gray, you're washing out the actual color and then you end up with gray. But if you remove the gray, you're increasing saturation, the color is coming out very well. So you have like the bright color down to gray and things like that. And then value is like how light or how dark, or how dark and how light it is basically. Okay. All right. You learned about color schemes and color wheels and colors in UI. Amazing. Amazing. Yeah, a new way to combine colors. So you could use analogous, complementary, triadic, monochromatic, or monogamic or so. Monochrome. Amazing, amazing. All right, so without further ado, let's continue with typography. So we established what typography is, how you arrange text or type or a typeface to make it more appealing or to communicate depending, and then uses in UI, hierarchy, readability, visual aesthetics. Then now remember the picture how typography matters. So typography is used in communication. Okay. And then I gave the example of when the same word is um saying I would always find you, but depending on what the font that was used, you can see I would always find you and I will always find you do. So like it's the same word, but because of the font that was used, you could have like different meanings and different communication. So it matters the font you use. It's not just about, okay, I've put all the information on the UI. It's not just that, because if it doesn't communicate, I mean that's the end. It's not getting the job done, or it's not getting the response you're supposed to get. So that's why font matters basically, and that's why we're actually learning typography today. Okay, so let's look at the real world example of Netflix. So Netflix has a range of type it uses. It doesn't just use any fonts, it actually has a range of fonts and it's part of its branding. So that brings us back to branding. The font you use also falls under branding. It has a serif and sans serif. I think I'll talk more about that when we're looking at typefaces. Yes, so serif and sans serif. Serif is literally without serif. So, oh sorry, serif is a font. Okay, so I'm sure you know all these olden days fonts that has like, I think the picture I use for typography. So if we can see it, the bottom picture, you can see all those extra at the end and at the bottom. So you have the T, but you have the extra. So we call that serif. And sans serif is when it's not there, like the Netflix we have here. So you can see Netflix, there's no extra at the end of the T. So that's serif and sans serif basically. But Netflix still has its serif branding, which is used for like movies like Stranger Things or Sense8 when it's naming the movie in its application. So depending on your brand, so you know the fonts to use and things like that. So fonts have different characteristics associated with them, and then the fonts used, like in the case of Netflix, Netflix is not just a brand, it encompasses different movies. So different movies of horror, different movies of maybe comedy, of action. There should be one font that should be able to communicate that action, or maybe romance or so. So if you're using the font of horror for romance, like it won't match, like it won't work well. So that's why Netflix has a range of fonts that it uses for its brand. But for a brand that is simpler, like a bank app, you can just stick to maybe one serif font and then have different range of that font. All right, so typography versus font. I know we've been saying font, and typography. Let us not be confused anymore. So what is typography and what is a font? Typography refers to the overall art and technique of arranging type. What is type? A letter. I think that's the best way to put it. A letter is a type. And the way you arrange that type, that letter that looks whatever, is typography. So either you reduce the space, increase the space, increase the, like now spacing could be very on top, below. Maybe you can change how curved it is or how straight it is. So all of that is typography. So like maybe I could move it to styling type, like styling a text or styling font or styling type. Okay. And then you do this to create visual appealing and readable text. So if everything is crunched together, it's difficult to read, but when it's spaced out, it's easier to read. And then font is a specific style, weight, or size of a typeface. We'll still talk about typeface. So typeface is what is the serif. Okay, so now typography. So there are different types of fonts. Okay, we'll get there, but there are different types of fonts. So your Arial, your Times New Roman, those are fonts, and they can be styled to have maybe Arial bold, Arial regular, whatever it is. Now typeface are types of fonts. Okay, so you can have a typeface that is serif or sans serif. You're gonna have, okay, what are fonts that are serif? Okay, fonts that are serif, I know there's Times New Roman, there may be Garamond. Then fonts that are sans serif, I know there's Poppins. Then I think Montserrat too is sans serif. So that's where you enter typeface. I really hope we're together on this. So that's typeface. And typography is, okay, how much space is between my text, or how much space is between this Arial font, or how much or which font am I even using? Should I curve it? Should I use an alternative? How do I pair it? What's the spacing between the text? What's the spacing between the header and the text and the paragraph? What's the spacing inside the paragraph? Those are typography, or that is typography. Yeah. So how you arrange your text, but it's not just arranging, it's not arranging like alignment, no. It's inside, like, of the word itself, what you do to the word itself and the collection of all the words. So it's not just limited to arranging it, it's also like, apart from arranging your text, also arranging the text itself, like maybe the words. Do you want all the spacing between the text before you now say spacing between two texts, like hello world, the spacing between hello, the spacing between world, and then the spacing between hello and world? That's typography. But it's not just spacing, but I hope, like, I hope I'm communicating what I mean. And then hello world is, let me say, type. And then the way hello world looks like is the typeface. The font I use to write hello world, like maybe do I use Arial or I don't know, Arial, what other words? Impact. That's the font. And then now I can now style the fonts that, okay, be thick, like maybe Arial bold, be a large one. So maybe Arial bold size 12 or size 24 pixels or points. So that's that's it in the breaking down. So now I want to say when you're designing, you actually think of these things as you practice, as you learn, they come subconsciously. So at the end of the day, you just look at the text and be like, oh, the space between this thing is too much, let me adjust it. Or you look at it and be like, well, the distance is too far. Maybe now how far and how close a text could communicate, as we established with the logo, with the word ladies tech, ladies in tech, or ladies tech Africa. Yeah. So maybe you want to make it far to be like thank you. So like maybe thank you in capital letters to give that impact feel, than everything crushed up and you're saying thank you, like you can hardly read it. So that's where you can use it to communicate as well. Okay. So we're running out of time. So these are examples of font. So we have Oswald, we have Times New Roman, we have Arial, we have Garamond, whatever you want. So you can see, and then typefaces, you can see Arial does not have any serif around it. You can see Times New Roman has that extra at the end. You can see Tilium Web does not have anything, so it's a serif. And then we have other types too, like script, handwriting. We'll still get to that, but this is like the summary. So when you're adjusting a font, which is that's a kind of like typography too, but let's just look at adjusting a font basically. A font can be customized by adjusting its size, weight, style, and spacing. And then you can also apply effects like underline, strike through, maybe shadow, but in itself is the underline structure. And there's even like a whole text section inside Figma. If I'm able to show you guys today, you see it. So there's so yeah, you can make it big, small, bold, light. You can adjust the spacing, can adjust the effects, and yeah, and then you can now give it life by adding color or whatever it is you want to, or maybe putting it on a shape or putting it on a button. So that's it basically. So if you want to change the font weight, you can see examples at the side. You want to change the style, you can see italic. If you want to, so now there are different ways you can maybe adjust the font. So you can maybe change the weight. So font weight, you can make it bold, you can make it regular, you can make it thin. You can change the style, you can make it italic, you can make it normal, you can change the variant, you can make it small caps, uppercase, lowercase. Then there's this upper and lowercase that every first letter will be uppercase, things like that, and you can transform it. You can variant it. I'm sorry I mixed that up. So there's text transform, that's uppercase, lowercase. There's font variants, which is the same font but it looks different. So you can use a capital letter, but you write it the way like the variation as if you're still writing capital and small letter. So it's like a small cap. So the first letter is like big capital, the left of letter like small capital, but it's still capital or uppercase. That makes sense. So that's like a font variant. So you have font weight, font style, font variant, text transform, and then kerning and leading. Kerning is the space between the text. Leading is the space between two lines of text. I'll go through that again. Like with the picture now, kerning is the space between two letters in the text. And then leading is the spacing between two lines of text, like one line, second line, the space in between. That's leading. And then strike through, there's literally an option for that. I really don't know why we use that. Okay, maybe for like slash price now, you can use this text effect of strike through. So that's it. Let's move on. So what's a typeface now? A typeface is a family of related fonts with a consistent design. So an Arial, so I said an Arial. Arial is a typeface. Arial is a font. Times New Roman is a font, but they are in the same family of serif. I'll say that again. A typeface is a family of related fonts. So what are the related fonts? We have Arial and Times New Roman, but both of them are in the family of serif. So that serif is a typeface, while Arial and Times New Roman is a font. And then it can have different styles and weight, like the italic, bold. So that's it basically. So now these are examples. Okay, so what are typeface styles? We have serif, sans serif, script, slab, monospace, display, handwritten, decorative, and I try to give like a pictorial representation. So if you can look closely at the image of sans serif, you can see it does not have an extra like let's say like a cap or a footer or something. It doesn't have an extra, it's just the word. But serif, you can see the extra. And another way I use it, sans means without. So without serif, with serif. Okay. So sans serif doesn't have that extra like maybe cap on it or bottom sliding out, while serif does. Script is more like cursive. Excuse me, script is like cursive. Display is like vintage. Then handwritten literally looks like someone's handwriting. I don't think I can zoom, unfortunately, but the slides will still be given to each and every one. But on YouTube, you can actually use your hand to zoom, it will zoom, so that works. Yeah, so then other examples, we have old style, we have transitional, we have modern, we have slab serif, which is like a thicker serif. And then we have sans serif, without serif. We have script, it is cursive. We have decorative, which is literally decorative. So yeah. Yes, the tech in Ladies in Tech is an example of serif. Beautiful. That is very true. It has the extra sides to it. That's exactly, yeah, correct. And then the header in my slide called typeface styles, it's a serif because it doesn't have the extra. And then when you're designing UI, this is not this. Maybe I'm giving you expo. When you're designing UI, please use a sans serif font. I cannot overemphasize this. You want your users to be able to read what they are looking at and to be able to read something digitally. If you are printing, yeah, if you are printing, it's beautiful to use sans serif. Newspapers, you probably find sans serif there. Magazines, whatever, you find sans serif. But digital, something someone is going to look at on a screen, please use sans serif. You can see serif rather on print materials, but if it's going to be digital, please use sans serif. Unless you are trying to create a style or it's deliberate to communicate something. But if your font, like maybe for the paragraph is sans serif, it will be serif rather, it will be difficult to read. But sans serif will be easier to read because those extra styles are not distracting. So please use sans serif for your designs, your UI designs. So sans serif could be Montserrat, could be Poppins, could be which other font is there? Could be Sora, things like that. All right. So what is a font? I know I might have explained this. Yes, the typeface in my slide is sans serif JS graphics. Yeah, so typeface versus fonts. Let me just clear this part out. So a typeface is design of the letters and symbols. I think we've established that. The font is the actual typeface. So this could be the size and the style, like what it is, the Arial bold, the way it's serif, and the way Times New Roman is sans serif. So those are the fonts that have a typeface or fall under a typeface category. I hope you understand. So that's the difference between typeface and font. Then, okay. Have I gone through? Okay, typeface and font. Yeah. And typeface and what was the other one? Typography and fonts. Okay, so we know the difference between typography and font, and we know the difference between typeface and font. All right, so with that being said, do we have any questions? Let's quickly do our quiz. So maybe I can still have like 10 minutes or so to just quickly go through Figma for us. And hopefully internet, is amazing. So let's do a quiz. I will be starting shortly. Scan, I'm sure by now we know what to do. Either scan the QR code or go to Slido and put the ID, or go to bit.ly/sctest4, and then we'll be taking the test as a class. Okay, so questions. Talking about desktop font sizes or mobile or desktop design, does this apply even when we use it? Yes, responsive design. Yes. So responsive design is designing something that can rearrange easily on different pages. Okay. It's not a special thing. It's just if I'm going to design for the screen for, let's say, desktop, when I'm rearranging everything that was represented on the screen, on the, let's say, laptop screen is represented in my phone, even if they stack. So let's say three things appear horizontally on my laptop, they can appear vertically on my phone. Not that I have to trade two of them and only use one. So that's how responsive design works. They just stack beautifully. And when you use auto layout, it's easy. When you design with auto layout, it's easy to like create designs that can stack than designs that can't stack. And then you have to probably use a different design entirely or just be creative when representing it on your phone. So that's about responsive. So yes, you have to take note of the sizes, because imagine if I'm using the same text size I use on the desktop on my phone, it will be too big. And you don't want that. You want to use the actual font size for your phone. So yes, changing this font sizes matter on the platform you're using it for. Another question, does that mean typography is everything about the text, while font is how the text looks like, the size? No. Typography is understanding what the text is. The text is the word. The font is the style. Okay, so there are different fonts. Okay, maybe I should explain it like this. There are typefaces, there are categories of fonts. There are categories of fonts. You could have a serif, you could have a sans serif, you could have a script. Beautiful. There are categories of fonts. And now those categories of fonts have different, like, they all don't look the same. The same way, okay, maybe I should even use this screen now. Although it's the same font. And again, when we're doing UI, it's advisable to use one or two fonts. Minimum one. You can use one throughout, just changing the color, the size, the weight. So the weight is like bold, regular, thin. You can even use italic, that's the style. Then the size is making it small, making it big. Then changing the color again gives you more contrast. So you can even use one font throughout your design. If you want to step it up, and as with you grow with experience, maximum two. Unless you are a pro, please do not use more than two. I beg you, don't use more than two fonts, because you just need one that works and maybe one to complement. So two works perfectly, or one self. One is enough. So maybe you can, okay, let me use two. But after that two, unless you know what you're doing, don't do it. Just do not do it. So that's that. So now back to what I was explaining. So now you have your typeface categories, you have a serif, but now there are different serifs. The way Montserrat, which is a font, looks is different from the way Poppins look, even if both of them don't have that extra curve. The way the curve in Ladies in Tech is different from the curve that we saw at that beginning type. Maybe I should go there and show you. It's different from the curve there. Let me, I think it will, see this old style. See the way the curve is at the left. But look at Ladies in Tech, it's straight. Both of them are serif, but they're not the same. So they're done in different fonts. So now the fonts are in the same category, but look different. So those are the fonts that we use. So that's what we call a font. Now, typography is now when the spacing between, let's say, old style and the spacing between Ladies Tech, or the spacing, like now, Ladies in Tech, if you even look at the logo, is a font logo. Ladies in Tech, the space is very small to show that, okay, both of them are together, and then there's a color contrast. It's different from the spacing between old style and transitional. Do you understand? So the spacing in old style and transitional is like the default, okay, read two lines. While the spacing in Ladies and Tech of the logo is like communicating, this is one compound, this is a group. It's not separate. You're not reading a paragraph, they are together. So that's how like spacing matters. And now for you applying those spacing, or you knowing to apply this, is now like understanding typography. Like, okay, there are different parts of this text, there are different parts of this font. I can put them together, I can separate them, I can change the style, things like that. So that's what typography. I see typography is understanding type. Maybe that's the way to put it. And then being able to like manipulate type. Typefaces are groups, types of type, and then fonts are under typefaces. I think that's the best way to explain it. Okay, so let me go back to our quiz. Typography is not. Typography is the way of manipulating text. Maybe I should put it like that. Or parts, or knowing the part of a text and knowing what you can manipulate inside. While typeface is the categories of text. Okay, so the code should work. Everything should work. So I've not started the quiz. Oh, I don't want all of us to like on board because we're taking this quiz together and it's only one attempt. I'm not doing it twice. So at least I still have like 10 minutes after. So I hope all of us have joined. Just reply yes in the chat and then I'll start the quiz. The last time they said I shouldn't read the quiz out. So I think this kind of sad for people that will watch this again. But basically, just quiz on everything we've talked about. So there's nothing to be worried about. Okay, so just yeah, you can use sans serif for readability. That is literally, I mean, that's what I said for digital screens, for digital designs, use sans serif unless you want to create, maybe your site is like a vintage site, can I start saying, okay, I want to try something different. But if you want them to read you well, please use sans serif. Okay, so I'm seeing enough here. So I'll be starting the first question. So let's all go to the quiz. So don't come and say you didn't see it. All right, the first question. Question will soon close. Hurry up, hurry up. All right, so the answer is, and I'm surprised. Wow, a lot of hey, logo is an element of branding. That's why remember the picture I showed you. Okay, maybe I should even be going through each one before I share the next question. Logo is an element of branding. If we remember this thing, if the code isn't going, just go to slido.com and use the ID or try and scan the code, the QR code. I think the scanning should work. It's working now. It's working. Try your network. SE test 4. So now the question. Then remember, use this thing. What do you call it? Remember the bit.ly. Take note of capital and small letter. If you use all small letter, it won't work. Oh, it's capital and small letter. That's the only way it will work. So and then if none of these are working, just go to slido.com, slido.com and type the ID. If the ID is not working, go to bit.ly/sctest4. If that one is not working, scan the QR code. If you're using your laptop, just use your phone to scan the QR code and it will go. All right, thank you so much. Okay, so now for the first question, I'm surprised why why did so many of us miss that logo? Remember the Netflix example? The Netflix example, logo is part of your branding. Like if you don't have a logo, how do we know who you are? We might know your name, but how do we identify you? Yes, you can have your color and your fonts, but without your logo, like that is how we literally know you and identify you. So please, logo is part of the branding. Okay, so there's an okay. So people are saying the ID is not working. Let me put that here. So while people are joining, let me just explain. Logo is part of branding. Color palette is part of branding. Color palette is part of branding because that's what we see. I've emphasized, we even talked about color. Why would you think color palette is not part of branding? Color palette is part of branding. And okay, let me just go back because that's the only way we understand is at the beginning. The Netflix example, you can see logo, text or font actually, color. These are parts of branding. The only thing that is not here, which is the answer to the question, is text alignment. Yes, text is there, but the alignment is not a brand. You can't say everything in my own brand is left aligned. So it will never be right aligned or center aligned. I mean, that can't even work. You can have it in specific parts, but you can't have it in the entire brand. You even see Netflix, their images are center aligned, probably their text are left aligned or center aligned when necessary. So an alignment is not a brand. You can't say I'm the owner of left alignment. It doesn't work. So now going to the next question, I paused it actually to allow more people to join. So the next question is up. Let's attempt it. You have 1 minute. Let's join back. The question is up. I'm doing it step by step. Thank God. Who is this 1%? Okay. So the primary purpose of typography in UI design, let me show the answer. The primary purpose of typography in UI design is to improve readability and hierarchy. It is not to decorate the design or to make your design look colorful. It is to improve readability and create hierarchy. So let's move on to the next question. I hope that's clear. The person that chose make design look colorful. Typography does not make your design look colorful. Next question is up. I talked about this in the last class. All right, so the answer is to organize and contain design elements. So organize and it's not to change font style or to change color. I'm starting the next question now. on top what I still said in this class. Okay. So the answer is sans serif. Remember, to know sans serif is without, sans, without serif, without serif. And what's serif? That extra stuff at the end of a font. So when it's for digital screen and user interfaces, it's sans serif. It's not script. Script is cursive handwriting. Serif is the one that looks like all these newspaper text Times New Roman. But for digital screen, sans serif for easier readability. So let's move on to the last question. I hope all of us have joined because this is the last one. Oh, I'm not retaking the test. Are we all good to go for the last question? Let me just give you 1 minute. All right, so let's move on to the last question. It has started, though nobody is voting. Spacing. Okay, let me keep quiet. Okay. So the answer is layout grids. I may not have spent so much on layout grids, but please, prototyping is linking wireframes together. It is not the same as spacing. Shape tool is to draw shapes. It's not the same as spacing. Layout grids is what is used for spacing and alignment in when you are designing. So that's all for it. Let's upload our scores. How many minutes do you have? Woo! Great for a 5/5. The meeting has ended. Don't bother joining again. Okay, so let me see if I can present my screen. Let me just show one or two things. Okay. So, oh my gosh, I think I'm sharing the wrong screen. Okay. Okay. All right. So let me just share my screen. So, Figma, this is literally what Figma is. When you log in, you see your name, and then you can maybe see your folders, and you just choose, can create a new folder. All your previous work will show here. Then let's create a new file. So now, just like from the class before, design file, FigJam, slide deck can import from your computer. So we're going to be creating a design file, and then these are your pages. Let me just, I hope we can all see my screen. So now you can even say your canvas should be white. So let me just make it white so that we can all see it basically. And okay, so this is a blank canvas. If I want to start on a design, I'll click on frame. We can learn shortcuts later on, and then I'll choose, okay, what do I want to design? If I want to design a phone, I can choose. Maybe if I want to design for an iPhone screen, I can choose an iPhone screen. If I want to design for a desktop or a computer, I could say, okay, maybe MacBook Pro 14 inches. So you see how the screens are different, right? And then if I now want to design something on this screen, let me like now see the bottom tools. These are I'm getting shapes. These are I'm getting, the person that asked about images. These are I'm getting images. These are I'm getting text. So let me just call this, now I'm typing. Let's write hello. This is just to explain everything. So now you can literally see this section called typography. I hope we can see my screen. Let me zoom in a bit. Just to zoom in again. Let me zoom in a bit. Okay, so you can see now I brought in a text. I drew a text box and I wrote hello. Now, in the section called typography, I can choose the font I want. There are different types of fonts. Remember, we've gone through different types of fonts which fall under different typefaces. So now, if I say Inter is a sans serif. I can say, okay, let me use let's say 24. And then I can say, okay, let it be bold. So these now are different styles that I can apply to my fonts. So these are different font styles. So let me make it bold. And then I can see all those ones. If I want to underline it, you click on this like settings part. I can underline it. I can crush through. I can make it big. I can let me remove this. I can change the way it appears, lowercase, uppercase. I can say center align, left align, justify. I can change the height, so I can bullet it in different ways. So these are like different. Then now, let's say there are two things. Let's say world. I can now increase the font, the line height. Like, okay, let me use a text. So this one can be percentage or text. I really hope I'm not losing you guys. Let's say 200. See how big it is. Let's say 20. See how small it is. And then in between two, that this the, I think, is it kerning? I can say, okay, 700. It went down because there's no space for it to go sideways. Assuming there's space for it to go sideways, you see. And if I say, let's say like minus 20, you see how it will shrink up. So that's literally how it is. If I say 50, so I can increase the text, I can increase the size, I can increase the space between. Let me put this back on 0, you see. Let me put this on, let's say 200, you see. So that's how it literally works then for whatever you're creating and all. So let's just have an overview of colors. And if I want to create a text style now, I can say, okay, let me duplicate this. Hello. So let me bring this here. I can now create a new style and call this, this one already has this stuff, and call it maybe hello. Although this is not conventional, but let me just use it to explain. So I can call this hello. So wherever I want to apply this hello now, I can even say, okay, for headers, and I can create style. Now creating style is noting that is inter, is bold, and is 50. So now if I create another font, and just write maybe Jojo. Maybe this one is let me use a different font. Maybe this one is this font, regular. If I want to now apply the style of hello, I'll just click on it, click here, and click on hello, and it's turned to hello. So that's how you just save time and so much stress and all those things. So same with colors, you can create color styles. So I wanted to use this to explain how responsive designs work. So now, if we have, let me remove this text. If we are designing for a monitor, remember this is a monitor, right? If I'm designing for a monitor and this is the style, I can use auto layout and do shift A of right click and create. That was instinct. Right click and then add auto layout. And then when I'm resizing it, I just like see the auto layout is left, right. So I can now reduce the space, like let's say 24, and then bring it into my mobile screen. Do you understand? The exact same design but resized for the platform. So maybe here I want this to be 200, but for a mobile screen, I want it to be like this. So that's how here became here. And then maybe I can increase the spacing just to match the branding or something. And then we have it. So that's literally just how it works for auto. That's this responsive design. And then one thing auto layout does, sorry about this, it saves time. So if I do Control D, which is duplicate, it's increasing it. So maybe for you to see what I'm doing, let me reduce this to 24. Now let me delete like 2. Because I used auto layout, if I duplicate, it increases. Like I don't have to start arranging, it's automatically arranged. And if I want to like turn it down, is like this. So if I now want to duplicate again, I can now link it again, create another auto layout, and then and then duplicate again. So like I'm just saving time. So like that, I already have my entire set. So let's take this away. Let me give it a color white. Okay. And then also, okay, we've not touched colors. So maybe fill. Let me just give this white so that it stands out. If you want to choose a color, you go to fill, you choose your color. Now this is the stuff I was explaining. So now this is the color red, this is hue, this is hue, these are different colors. So how dark it is, this is like the purest color. Let me bring it here so you can see. I hope we're still together. Okay, so this is the purest color. And then if you come down, it's getting dark because it's adding more black to it. If you come here, it's getting bright because it's adding more bright. If you come here, this is like it's washing out. Okay, so this is just literally how you choose color, but this is the purest form. So you can now, there are other things you can learn like blend modes, gradients, pictures and stuff. But for this class, I'm just treating colors. You can even have your own library of pictures and stuff like that. So and then now, so here you can use this to change the hue. Here you use to change the opacity. And if you know the actual code, like white is FFFFF, you have your color white. So that's the hex code. And then Figma 2 is smart enough to know colors that have been used and just bring it back. Then same way we did for that one, if you want to create a style, so let me select this one. Let me make it red, maybe like this shade of red. I can create a color style and call it I can create a color style and call it maybe dark red. Remove this. The reason why these are here because there's like a asset connected to my Figma. So this brings up other stuff like button colors. You just say it's like a design system. Maybe I'll use this to explain design system as well. So I can name this dark red. and then creating the style. If I want to change the color of this, I can just come here, click, and select dark red. So that's literally just how it is. And then there are other functions. You want to export this layout grid. So let's look at this now. So layout grid to ensure spacing. I prefer columns than like actual grid. So choose columns, and then maybe we can have like a count of 12 depending, and then this just for sample really. And then maybe when you are designing your site, let me just use this. So double click to like click something that is below. So maybe something like this. Now I can now know that whatever I'm expanding on this screen is from here to here. It should not pass here. So maybe my navigation bar can be like this. And then when I remove the layout, like I hide it, you see that I'm maintaining spacing. So whatever I'm doing on this site is like within the space. You get? And then there's alignment. Sorry. There's alignment. You can use this for alignment. So like center align, left hand, because they're the same, that's why you can't see it. So let me make one thinner or smaller so you can see the difference. So if let's say, let me Control Z. So these alignments, if I want to right align, they go to the right, left align, center align. So then you can now space them, middle, top. Let me go back. So top, everything will go up. Bottom, everything will come down. Middle, everything will stay in the center. Then if you don't want to use auto layout, you can distribute vertically. So it will put consistent spacing between. So you can see 80 and 80. So that's that. What else? Prototyping. So let me just use this to explain or show you prototyping. So let me make this so you can see the difference. So in design is where you do your designs, and in prototype is where you do like your linking. So I'm going to link this page to this page. So in prototype, I'll set my device to the device I want it to view in. That's why it's advisable that when you're creating pages, you create like maybe this can be your web view or desktop view. And then you can now create another page for mobile view. So we're in desktop view now. So now when I'm prototyping now, let's say I'm like, so I've set my device to, let me set my device because I'm actually dealing with monitor. I think I chose MacBook Pro 14, and then see the mockup here. So now, although you can't see, like now, because I'm sharing this screen alone, if I actually click here, you won't see the next page, even though I will see the next page. But there's another feature in Figma that allows you to preview inside. So that's this preview. So preview allows you to actually see it while you're working, which it was an amazing addition on Figma, because before we have to go to the next page before we can see what is showing. So this is one page and this is the second page. Let me reduce this a bit. So while you're working, you can actually see your work in progress. So now I'm like, okay, when I click on this page, I want to go to this page. So I literally linked it. To link, you just hover, you'll see like a circle. So you can now click on that circle and link it to something else. Okay, so maybe let me make this green. Just things like that. That's different. We're not here to go in details. But yeah, so I want to do a prototype that when I click here, so you have to go to your prototype view, show this next page. So let me set the settings. So on click, you can do on hover, when the mouse enters, after delay. Those are animations you can still learn after. Navigate to the next page and let it be instant. There are other ways you can do. You can even choose states and so many other things. You learn that in detail. But just for this class, on click, navigate. So now if I click navigate, and then here if I click, nothing happens. I didn't really set anything for that. That's why that one is blinking. So let me do, okay, when I click again, go back. So I come here, I click, I drag it back, and I'm saying on click navigate to. So now if I click here, it goes back. If I click, it goes. So that's how stuff works. And then you can create an entire model people can use, and people can use you can use for presentations and stuff like that. So I think that's the overview. These are your layers. Everything I added becomes a layer. So these are frames, MacBook Pro. If I rename this frame to maybe page 1, let me double tap. So I can rename this to page 1. You see now that it will update on the layer page 1, and then I can rename this to page 2. So maybe I can put landing page or whatever, and then on the layer, so the layer is just like a log of everything happening. And then on the layer too, I can now say, okay, page 1, copy. You can also take actions here, so copy and paste to replace. So that's literally how it works. So you can also do actions from here. And then your assets, you get to see assets if they already have assets. If you don't have assets, stuff like that. Design systems can bring things in. So this is a design system now. I have it as an asset. So you can have avatars, button, cards. If I need a card design now, I'll just pick the one I want, bring it in, then start my design. I don't have to start arranging. But now I have the template, I can now apply the styling of button I've already pre-created or whatever. And then it just saves me tons of time. Like I don't have to waste time on work anymore. So that's how it works. Then I think the last one is plugins. So same for libraries. So libraries are like things you made yourself or things you're bringing in. And then you can check in this file or other files. So, and then file is like your actual file. You have your layers, you have your pages. So those are the two things. Then in assets, now if you create a component, your component will show. So let me create this as a component now. Components are reusable stuff. So let me show you how components work. So this component, if I create a duplicate here, if I change the color of this one, the color of my duplicate changes as well. So let me edit this color. Let me change it to like black. You saw that? Black, black. If I change the color again to it changes. If I reduce it, it reduces. If I increase it. So imagine if I have like 10 pages, like this just makes my life easier. If I reduce, all of them reduce. If I increase, all of them increases. So that's how it is. So I have all my libraries here. I can filter through them and so on and so forth. Okay, so now lastly, let me just show you how plugins work. So you right click, you go to plugins, you can go to your save plugins. These are like my go-to plugins, not all of them, but some of them. And then you can manage plugin, which is everything. You can also come here to click on plugin. Okay, these comments too. You can comment on something. Hello. Everybody that comes to the file can see it, or you can press this greater than and type something, but this one will fade away because like it's not permanent. So if other people are collaborating with you, they'll see that. You can collaborate, you can see everybody you're collaborating with, you can share your file, things like that. So back to plugins. So now let's say, let me do Unsplash, or let me say, okay, images. So it gives me like, okay, these are my saved plugins. I really don't know, but you can just know plugins, what they are or where they are. So I know Unsplash is for images. I know Pexels is for images. I know FreePic is for images. So click here. Let me use Unsplash to just show an example. So now it's loading Unsplash. It's like an application that is in-app. It's like an add-on. So if I want to add an image to this rectangle now, when it loads, we'll see. Or I will soon close this class. I've already overspent my time. So let me bring this here and reduce it. Sorry, it's too big. But it doesn't even want to be reduced. Anyway, so now I can just click on this image and then to import, and there I go. I didn't have to start going on the internet to look for images. I can just click and it's there. So that's it. I think that's a good way to round off UI design. I'll attach a link to our assignments to teach us more about creating files basically. We have overspent our time and it's time to go home, or I don't know, log out. So I really hope if you came for the last class, you understand everything I just did, or at least you have an idea of everything that just happened. So I just went through Figma just to show you everything. The assignment would be sent to you during the week. And yeah, if you have any other questions, let me know. Don't worry, you still see my face, but other facilitators have to teach you as well. Yeah. Any other thing? Nothing. Okay, so with that being said, thank you all for your time, for your patience. Thank you all for everything. And I wish you all the best in your product design journey. Good night and God bless you. Bye-bye.